And we have breaking news in the Lori Vallow Daybell murder conspiracy trial. The state rests its case, and Vallow, who's representing herself, said she intends to do the same. Vallow Daybell has already been convicted of killing her young children in Idaho. Now she's on trial here in Arizona for conspiring with her brother to kill her then husband.
The I-Team's Erica Stapleton was in the courtroom as all of this unfolded over the past hour. And Erica, what can we expect next?
Well, essentially, the state rested its case this afternoon. They called their last witness, and once they said they rested, the jury was let out of the room. At that point, the judge asked Lori Vallow Daybell, who you said is representing herself, what she intends to do. She took a few moments to confer with her team and ultimately told the judge that she plans to rest too without calling witnesses, without taking the stand herself. Now, because the jury was not in the room for that moment, they didn't hear her say that, she technically has until Monday to change her mind. That's the date everyone said, hey, we can do closing arguments on these days. And she essentially has all that time to change her mind if she wants to do so, because the jury did not hear her say that she plans to rest her case. So time will tell whether she intends to do that, or we'll see what happens come next week. But that's what we know as of right now. And of course, this is all on the heels of a really busy day in court, a lot of evidence. Here's a look at some of the stuff that we heard today in court. Chandler Detective Nathan Duncan was the only detective, or the only witness, excuse me, on the stand today. He's the case agent for Charles Vallow's death investigation, which goes back to July 2019 when Lori's brother, Alex Cox, shot and killed Charles. Duncan's testimony echoed what we heard from other law enforcement officers, that Lori's brother waited at least 45 minutes to call 911, and that Lori took Charles's phone after he died and went through it before turning over to investigators. After investigating phone and iCloud data, he found that Charles Vallow was killed just a few weeks after he confronted Lori about an affair with Chad Daybell, who would become her current husband. Duncan also learned Lori was texting with her new husband, Chad Daybell, about changes to Charles' life insurance policy, and he also found out her brother was texting about Charles being possessed.
Through this investigation, we had learned that Ned was the name of a dark spirit that had taken over Charles' body. And so in knowing this, I went through these records looking for a mention of Ned and to the reference and how it was used.
And was this, when we talk about the dark spirit, is this something that through your investigation, as we've heard in court, was a name that Lori had associated or given to Charles Vallow?
Yes.
From February of 2019 up through September after this, are we still seeing Lori talking about Charles being Ned?
Yes.
This concept of Z or zombies?
Correct.
And others that seem to have helped Charles were equally dark.
Yes.
So.
Now, the jury also saw text messages between Lori Vallow Daybell and her now husband, Chad Daybell, talking about Charles being Ned as well as his life insurance policy. The pair also shared several romantic messages after Charles's death. Now, again, this was the only witness to testify today. The state rested its case. And after the jury left the room, I mentioned the judge asked Lori Vallow Daybell what she intended to do. And before she said she wanted to rest, she raised a motion, essentially saying that the state didn't present enough evidence in this case. The state, of course, denied that. And the judge ultimately said, you know, there is substantial evidence here for a jury to look at this and possibly convict you. So he denied that motion as well. And that's when we heard her say she does not, she doesn't plan to call anybody and doesn't plan to testify herself. So it'll be really interesting to see whether or not she changes her mind. We know they'll be back in court tomorrow without the jury to discuss possible jury instructions heading into Monday, when we are expecting those closing arguments. I'll send it back to you guys.
Yeah, in a lot of these higher profile trials, it seems unusual not to have any defense case put on at all. And the burden of proof is on the prosecution. So, I mean, can you point to a couple of things, and again, we only have like 30 seconds, that specifically, according to the prosecution, tied Daybell to this murder of her husband?
You know, it was everything. It took them less than 2 weeks to lay this all out. It was text messages. It was interviews from people who knew them, from people who were part of the religious circle, from Lori Vallow Daybell's other brother. He, said Charles was worried. He feared for his life. That's what we heard from some other people who testified as well. So this all really does tie together when you look at it in the big scope. And it's been interesting because we did see Lori Vallow Daybell try to cross-examine people. And she argued in hearings leading up to this trial about having her own witnesses and bringing in an expert. So it's really interesting to see that maybe it was all for show. Maybe she was trying to do something. And ultimately, this is where it landed her.
Yeah, well, we could have an answer very soon.
Yeah.
All right. Erica, thank you. And you can watch this trial, whatever's left of it here, and we'll see what happens, exclusively on 12 Plus. So if you haven't done so yet, download the app on your TV and you can watch it for free. And then every night at 8:30, including tonight, we're going to have a daily recap and analysis about what happened inside the courtroom. So that is our TV streaming app, 12 Plus. Tempe police are warning people of disturbing images being posted around that city.
Yeah, that's right.